There he is.
How you doing?
Jose, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me tonight.
No, glad to be here.
Jose, you look young, man. You're 48 years old. Do I have that right?
That's correct.
Yeah, but you look like you're my age, which is 39. So good for you, man. Um,
Well, that's what tennis does for you, man.
keeps you young. So
That's right. No, no stress, man.
all right. Uh, before we start this, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody where you live and what you do for a living right now?
Well, right now I'm in Coral Springs, Florida, living, but I'm in Plantation Beltry Tennis Center. I have a tennis academy. I've been doing it for 12 years, and I'm happy to be at Beltry. It's a great place with a lot of tradition. You know, Bob Cooper was there. I actually started playing when I was 9 years old. Not starting, but when I first moved down to Plantation, I took a lesson from Bob Cooper,
Wow.
and he's the one that originally sent me to George Paris.
No kidding.
You know, my dad. Bob says that that's the greatest thing he ever did for me, which it is one of the greatest things he ever did for me. Because, as you know, George is a great coach, and my dad wanted me to take lessons every day, and Bob was just like, you're probably looking for a guy like George,
Yeah.
and he knew where to send me. I mean, Bob did the right thing, and I thank him for it.
Bob Cooper, for those that don't know, I mean, just retired, probably a 30-plus year career at Frank Beltry Tennis Center and Plantation. Anytime there was a Plantation designated, you had Lowell and Bob together working that show. Lowell's still there, though.
That's correct.
Lowell's still doing his thing.
Lowell's now taking over, and he's doing a great job.
So
Really happy.
Lowell is the director of Frank Beltry Tennis Center. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Wow.
Yes.
Good for Lowell.
So it's a tradition. He earned it. He was there for so long that now he knows what to do, and the place is still like always. So it's perfect.
Well, when you see Lowell, there's two things I want. I want to try to find some any archives from the '90s and Frank Beltry. Number one, and number two, ask if I can get my point penalties back from all the times I threw my racket at Plantation, because that guy would always find me, no matter where he was. He'd be in the back, I'd be in the front. He'd run over, point penalty. He'd find me throwing my racket. So
when you do that kind of stuff, you're an easy target, man. That's everybody knows where that guy is on the courts on the tournaments. So all the referees.
Is he still roaming? Does Lowell still ref and roam the courts during tournaments?
No, he's taken over as tournament director, and now it's a bunch of referees walking around, trying to do their thing. But that's one thing about tennis now. There's not enough referees for all the stuff that's going on. That's a whole different story, though.
Sure. Well, we'll go into the current state of tennis, your current career as we move forward. Good crowd here. Rodrigo Gomez, Brett Rowley, Hugo Armando, all watching you right now. Rudy Rake as well. All right. So, Jose, you're from Mexico. Do I have that right?
Yeah, I was born in Guadalajara, Jalisco, in 1970. That's actually when I started playing tennis.
Okay. And you did not initially move to Florida, if I did my research correct. Were you in San Antonio, Texas?
Yeah, I was there first. I went to John Newcomb's tennis camp.
Wow.
That was a great place. I had a good coach in Guadalajara. It was actually Rosita Palafox. I don't know if you know, but Toño Palafox was John McEnroe's coach.
Okay.
So he, she started coming to my house and giving me lessons every day, and I enjoyed it, but I just kind of grew out of it. I just started playing really well, and my dad said, it's time to, it was kind of interesting how everything came together, because he had no idea that I wanted to become a tennis player. It was just one day he brought some rackets from the States, and we had a tennis court, and I grabbed one of the rackets because I used to watch, Bjorn Borg and McEnroe play with him. So I just kind of started watching tennis with my dad, and we had a wall on the clay court, and it started hitting against the wall, but the wall was made out of bedrock, so the ball would never come back to you. So I just started playing every day by myself. I would go down and just hit balls against the wall. Finally, my mother said, "Hey, why don't you get this guy some tennis lessons?" And that's when Rosita came in the picture, and from there I just started playing, and then we moved to San Antonio, where I went to John Newcomb's, and I was there for a year.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed it. I like Texas, but same thing. I started winning all the tournaments, and my dad said, let's move on where there's more competition. I actually did 2 weeks with Pancho Segura
Wow.
up in San Diego. And funny enough, it was Martin Blackman who reminded me that he was there. He was there that same time when I was with Pancho, and we actually played against each other when we were like 10 years old. And
Wow.
I'd sort of kind of forgotten about it, and he sort of reminded me. And the reason why I didn't stay with Pancho is because Pancho wanted me to stay with him for, to live with him. And my dad said, that's it's not going to happen. So we just sort of moved to West Palm Beach, was there for a little while, and then I came to Plantation, and that's where I was with George Paris, but I also took some lessons from Sandon Stolly.
Yeah.
I mean, from not Sandon Stolly, Fred
Fred
Stolly.
Stolly, yeah, Sandon Stolly's father.
Yeah,
And was
yeah.
that in Turnberry?
Yeah,
It was,
exactly.
Yeah, the Stollies were
Yeah.
in Turnberry in the 80s and early 90s. Now, you started off playing in Florida for the first time at Central Park. Do I have that right?
Yes,
Okay.
that's what we're in Plantation, because in West Palm Beach, I actually now know it's the tennis club, I think it's called. I was there for
Tennis Club
I
Palm
was
Beach. Yep.
Yeah, I was, they have a lot of clay courts.
Yeah.
The club still looks great. There's a lot of courts there. There's, I mean, the apartments around the area went down a little bit, but the the courts are playing well. And I was curious. My father brought this guy that used to coach me in Mexico to be there with me for a while, but then we couldn't really find the right fit. And then we traveled to Plantation where, I started at Beltry, which was Central Park before.
Sure. Yeah. It's no longer called Central Park?
No, well, Central Park is the facility, but
sure. It's Frank Beltry
the park itself, yeah, Frank Beltry Tennis Center, which Frank Beltry, Bob says that he's the reason why Plantation had such success, because he was always, he liked tennis. So it's the dynamics of, now that I work at a public facility, I understand how the dynamics work, and the city really has to be behind the programs for them to grow. It's
Sure.
If you get a friendly government that's willing to work with the tennis program, with all that, then it's easy for you to start getting bigger and bigger. And of course, Bob did a great job of just promoting tennis. I mean, Bob was really a great tennis promoter, I believe.
Yeah. You have to be. I mean, you have to know what you're doing behind the scenes to get people on the courts. It's not sometimes how good of a tennis player you are. You know this. It's really about your marketing ability to bring people to both public and private. Bob Cooper, I mean, guy's been around since the 80s. I mean, nobody lasts that long unless they're a superstar.
No.
And that's what Bob Cooper was. And I had an honor of taking a photo with him when I lost in the finals of that Plantation designated, and he was such a generous guy. I'm glad that you had a chance to work with him and also your first coach. Now, your 12, just go into your 12s, which is an incredible group of people. Do I have this right? 1983, your second year 12s, kind of your starting point here in Florida, where you became a force. Do I have that right? Where Jared Palmer was number one?
Well, yeah, but it really started in the 10s.
10s, okay, go ahead.
Like, like I started playing where Adam Schwartz was.
Yeah, right down the road.
Adam Schwartz was just, it was so hard to beat that guy. That guy hit 1,000,000 balls in the court, He used to drive me crazy. And at the time also, I don't know if you remember Jerry Gonzalez.
Yeah.
I don't know if
the name sounds familiar. I mean, you guys 10 years older, but you hear the names. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Jerry, everybody knows who Jerry was because he used to have two forehands.
Yeah.
He used to hit a forehand on both sides. So, I started playing in the 10s, and, that was the group of guys. But in the 12s, that's when I started competing against Jared Palmer, which was probably, the biggest rivalry I had all throughout the juniors.
Yeah. I did the research on that.
Yeah.
So in the 10s, are you with George Paris primarily? And where are you? Is it Wellaby, or is he at Wellaby yet by then? How's that work in that timeline back in the very early 80s?
It happened so long ago that I don't have a exact recollection, but I remember, when I was doing the 10s, that's when I did that stint in West Palm Beach.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I started moved down to Plantation, and that's when because I also did some time at Inverary
with Gary,
with Gary Castles, while Carlos Alvarado was the head coach there. And that was a great group of guys because you had all the Venezuelan guys there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember Nicolas Pereira,
The name,
you know.
Jim Scott reminded me of that guy, I think, recently. Now, let's talk about Gary Kessels for you, because the timeline for Kessels had to be in the mid 80s, right? Do I have that right? You were kind of going, you went back and forth, Invery, George.
It,
How did that work?
it, yeah, like in 19, I think it was 1981.
Okay.
I was in between, George, Gary Castles. It was like 80, 81, George, Gary Castles, and also, Stolly,
Okay.
Fred
Wow.
Stolly.
You're going everywhere there.
You,
Okay.
well, yeah, I did, because my dad was this guy that looked for the best coaching, and he just wanted me to get exposed to, everybody that was out there. He really believed in George, though. He really liked George a lot. He used to tell me, listen to this guy, whatever he says,
Right.
because my first lesson didn't go so well. I was a little hard-headed, and it's, I understand it now, because when you're young and you hear so much instruction, it's just very hard for you to stay focused on one thing. So when you're hearing different people telling you different things, it's not that they were so different, but they did have a different style.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fred was very laid back. That guy was, like really laid back. He kind of just talked to you a little bit. George was very good, but George was, no nonsense, absolutely no nonsense. And then of course Carlos was also very laid back, and he was very good. But it's hard when you're a kid and you're trying to shuffle between all these systems.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I believe it's important that, when you're a kid and you're developing, especially at the beginning, it's important to just have one voice. You really got to just go with one guy, and then just let it ride from there. And it sort of happened not on a good note, that my father passed away when I was 11, and so I had to make a decision of where I wanted to go, because my mother couldn't drive me around all those places. I have three brothers and one sister, so it was tough. And so I decided to stay with George, because I had an affinity with him. The guy was really nice. I mean, we at the beginning we kind of clashed a little bit, but then as we went on, I really kind of took to the system, because it was really sort of, for me, it was very repetitive, very technical, and I sort of enjoyed that. I enjoyed the grind, of the lessons, and I thought he was one of the guys that really pushed you on the court,
Yeah.
and I sort of thrived in that environment.
It seems like George Paris's top students, being you, Rake, Whittam, they all had their beginning stages were rough with George, and then you finally get used to all of his cadences and everything that he offers, and then the relationship is so powerful and so successful, and then champions are basically produced with George Paris over on those courts at Sunrise at Willoughby. So let's now, there's so much to dive into, but we can't go year by year by year. It'd take a long time. And I don't have all the data because it's so long ago, but I know in 1985, that was a huge year for you. You are the Clay Court Nationals champion. You beat Jonathan Stark. Before we dive into that, where are you training then in the 14th? Is it Paris, and is it at Willoughby? And who are the guys that you were training with at the time besides coaches?
Well, that around that era, at that time, like after my father died when I was 11, I just stuck with George. That was
George all
it.
the whole way through.
That was George
Okay.
all along. So, and like I said, with me, the rough part with George was only about a month and a half. I really got used to it real quick.
Yeah.
And then because he was, when my dad died, it was a designated, and I went with George. So, after that happened, I just talked to Gloria recently about it, and because I said, me and George were too alike. We were really hard. We both really have a tough, sort of like thing about us, but we were very alike. And she said, well, no, you don't understand. It's like, Dad, George saw you as his son, and then it dawned on me that, that is the kind of relationship you sometimes have with your dad, where you just don't listen. You know what I mean? But I always listened to George, but it was really tough. But I was with George, and at that era in 1985, we really had a great group of guys to train with, because it was Mark Merklin, Ivan Barron, it was Oliver Fernandez, it was Jay was there, Jay Berger. Jay was in and out in the scene, so I would play with him sometimes, and I think Jay had a stint at Volataires.
Yeah.
But pretty much everybody that was in there, Yasser Satini, all the guys that were at Wellaby
Yeah.
were all huge competitors.
Yeah.
I think that part of the reason why all those guys in that group of guys were so good is because we all really competed against each other, and we just kind of like every single day in practice we brought our best. It was like you didn't want to lose to one guy at any given time. So in that kind of environment, you just kind of get better, and it's all positive because we all love to play against each other.
That's an incredible group. Now, besides George, at this point in '85, does Carlos defect Inverary to help George out at Wellaby?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I think that happened a little bit
A
later
little bit
on.
later. Okay.
Yeah, it happened around maybe, in that article, it was crazy that, you put that article up because it brought so many memories. I think that's when Carlos started getting to the picture.
Yeah.
It must have been like 3, 4, 5, 6 months when Carlos stepped in and sort of was helping me transition into the net. And it was really, I think it was great. I think George and Carlos really balanced each other out because Carlos was more of a cerebral type of coach. He made you think things through. He just wouldn't yell at you to do it. He would kind of like
Yeah.
ask like why you were doing it. So
Yeah.
it was a little bit of a change, but it was really good. It was really good, and I think those two guys together were, and then later on Pierre coming back. It was a nice balance between all three of those coaches.
I do remember that vaguely. At age 9, I was a Gary Kessel defector in Inverary in 1989 and moved over to Welby because I wanted to follow Pierre. And yeah, it was exactly right. I just remember like seeing George out there and like, oh shit, I don't know if I want to be on the court with that guy. And I did enjoy my time a lot with Pierre. Pierre was my coach, so it made it.
Yeah.
It was a much more comfortable feeling. And then you had the Kurtz brothers. It was an amazing situation at Welby. Now, I'm going to jump a little bit, Jose. Did you ever
Yeah.
coach under George or Carlos at Welby or Bonaventure?
No, 1995 is when I decided to go into coaching.
Okay.
So I had thought about, George or Carlos, like where I wanted to start.
Right.
But at the time I had a little bit better relationship with Carlos.
Okay.
Because I sort of left George to go with Carlos.
Okay.
Because like I said, me and George were just
Sure.
clashing all the time. It was just, if you, I was already mad enough when I lost. I didn't need anybody to yell at me. And it was more of a communication thing. I mean, I understand George completely because, he was like my dad. I mean, I did live with him for a couple of years, like into summers, and I spent a lot of time with him because he would take me to all the tournaments. And we often talked about how Vince Lombardi was his idol. He loved Vince Lombardi. So then it dawned on me, that's the kind of coach George was.
Sure.
He was sort of, Vince Lombardi style, and Carlos was more sort of like he would make you think about things. And so I gravitated towards Carlos. And when I started coaching, I decided it was a good situation where, Rick Macy and Carlos had a place at Inverary.
Yeah. Yep.
So I said, Rick has a good reputation as a good coach. Carlos is a good coach. Let me step into that scenario because I'm one of the guys that wanted to learn how to coach.
Yep.
A lot of my friends said, why do you want to learn how to coach? You should just, start your academy, la, la, la. But I'm like, no, I really respect the game. And I feel like, if you want to do a good service to your students, you kind of have to study the game. Because there's so much out there. Everybody says they know about technique, but you don't really know until you study it, until you really see what's out there and all the angles. And I've gone to the ITF coaching camps. I've done the PTR. I'm a professional. I've done the USDA high performance. I've done it all just to make sure that I know what's out there and I can always improve as a coach. And I'm that kind of a person. If I do something, I want to do it 100% right. I'm not going to do it halfway. And that's one of the things that tennis taught me, that if you're going to do something, you might as well try to be the best at it.
Yeah.
And so by doing that, and I just took that decision. And don't get me wrong, when I was here, I called George and I said, hey, let's get together. And I only did 6 months. And one of my biggest regrets was I never got to get together with him before I went back to, you know, start an academy in Mexico City.
Okay.
But you know, that's one of the things in life that you don't know what's going to happen. And then, you know, next thing I know, Gloria calls me and he passed away.
Yeah.
You know, that's the hard thing about life. You know, you have those decisions and you just kind of, you know, I was 25 years old. You're like, yeah. And then it just, before you know it, it's, you know, I'm 48 and here I am.
Well, it's pretty. You have a fascinating story. All right, let's stay with 1995. It's pretty interesting, Jose. My last guest that I had on this show was Erica Byro, who's my age, and she ends up at she's a Carlos student who ends up making the journey from Boca to Imbre to train with Carlos, and then enters Rick Macy. Rick Macy was my coach in Delray Beach. His academy falls apart in early '95 at Lavers, so he finds himself at Imbre. You worked with Rick. You worked with Carlos. Let's get your Rick Macy perspective. What did you learn under Rick? What did you like about him? What didn't you like about him? Because this you know, Rick Macy on this page has really been split down the middle as far as players that liked him and did not like him. I'm a huge Macy guy. I loved him. I thought he was a tremendous coach. Let's get your Macy perspective.
Well, you know what it is that I feel that it has to be a fit for you.
Right.
You know, it's a personality thing. You know, you're not going to like every coach you work with.
That's right.
You know, and not every coach is going to figure out what you need. So it's a combination. It's a combination of the coach finding out what you need and that you're willing to communicate and get along with them. If you have those two, then that's for you. So what ends up happening is, just because a guy makes one guy play well doesn't necessarily going to work for you. And that's what I think it's a harder thing about tennis. It's like trying to figure out every student and seeing who you can help and who you can't help. You know, like I refuse now to help guys that are just have bad tempers. I just can't handle it. You know, I don't want to go through the grind because I don't want to yell at somebody to make them understand.
Right.
And I think, you know, Rick is a really good coach if you fit his style. Right. Which is really what happens with almost every coach. You know, if you happen to go in there and fit the style, then it's going to work out for you. So I can see some people going to Rick and not getting anything out of it. Yep. And I can see other people going to Rick, you know, and getting a lot of it. Also, in there has to be, you know, what belief you have on the coach.
Sure.
You know, if the guy is telling you things that make sense to you. You know, if they don't make sense, you're not going to believe it. If you don't believe it, you're not going to do it. And if you're not going to do it, it's not going to work.
Right.
So, and that's one of the reasons why I personally prefer to try to make my own players. You know, I don't really like getting, you know, because to go into different systems also, it's very tough. It's like how many guys you see in NFL going from one system to another and being successful. I mean, that's not going to happen. And people don't look at tennis that way. You know, tennis is the same way. If you have a kid that, you know, is very free thinking and can't stand the grind of, you know, hitting a million balls, and he's more of a live ball kind of person, you know, you make him do drills and baskets, you're going to drive him crazy. Right. So part of that equation is, you know, what kind of student and what kind of player do you have? You know, what kind of system he's coming from. You can't just hop around and think that every guy's going to help you. If you are a guy that's more, you know, basket based, that's me. You know, I love drills. I love baskets. Like every time I want to play my best tennis, you know, I get somebody to feed me some balls because I just like striking a million balls. And then I do a little live ball, a little bit of this, but I'm very drill based. So that's the kind of thing that you have to figure out. So it's very hard to you know, to make like a qualification for a coach. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to say like, well, he's an 8, he's a 9, you know. It's for me it's very easy. You know, it's you get a player, make him better. You know, are you making him better? And then he has to feel like he's getting better. You know, that's very important. You know, you have to tell him like, hey, you have to put in, you know, about a couple of months of work, but at the end of that, you have to come out being a better tennis player. I just think too many people are worried about ranking and not developing, and that's where we've gone all wrong. You know, I'm not a fan of the UTR at all. I mean, at all. I do not like it.
Okay.
Because now everybody's a number. You know, kids come up to you and they say, well, I'm a 10, I'm an 11. And you know, what does that really mean? I mean, are you a 10? Are you an 11?
Yeah.
Or do you have game or not? You know, and to me, it's more that's where I take like Georgia's stance on it. It's more, I mean, do you really have the game?
Yeah.
You know, you can be at 13, but if you have no weapons, you're going to stay at 13 all your life, which I don't even know what a 13 means because I don't pay much attention to it.
Yeah.
You know, I make my players try to play as many tournaments as possible, you know, not worrying about who they're going to win or who's going to lose because it's, you know, one of the things that I liked it when I was a kid is that for a while we used to play tournaments when I was growing up in the 12s and 14s, and I think more the 12s and the 10s that helped me a lot was I played a tournament almost every weekend.
Yeah.
You know, I used to see Francisco Montana there all the time, and you know Chris LeBert and all these guys, and we used to have so much fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't wait to go to the tournaments. I mean, that was one of my favorite things is to wake up in the morning and like, who do I play?
Yeah.
Like, because there was no internet. You know, you looked at the drum like you're like, all right, you know,
You had to
it's
call
like
up.
I'm gonna play this guy, you know. And you know, always remember when George told me, he's like, hey man, you want to be the guy that everyone is fears to see in the draw.
Yeah.
And that always stuck with me. I'm like, you know, that's a great mentality. It's like because I know those kind of guys. You know, when I saw Francisco anywhere near me, I was like, oh man, not again. You know what I mean? So that's always fun.
Well, I'm a 16 UTR, if that is possible. I don't know. I'm gonna throw that number. I don't know the UTR system either.
You beat out your next guest, Roger.
Oh, is Roger higher? Okay. All right. We have
I don't know.
Steve Tyson here says, glad to see you're doing well, Jose. He played at Western High School down the road in Fort Lauderdale area, the western side of Fort Lauderdale. So there you go. Hated trying to serve volley against you. So
wow, yeah.
let's rewind back to '85, where you won the Clay Court Nationals against Jonathan Stark. Where was that venue for the?
No, I beat Bryce Karsh in the finals.
Oh, you did? Okay, I have Jonathan Stark. I don't know why that said.
No. I'll never forget that match because on match point, you know, I hit a ball and Bryce called it out. It was in the back of the baseline.
Yeah.
And luckily there were referees, and then, you know, he got overruled and I won the tournament. And, you know, I can remember him saying, like, no way, man, the ball was out. And I was just like, I didn't want to hear it. I'm like, all right, Bryce, it's over, man.
Yeah,
we had a tough match. You know, Bryce was a really good player. He, again, hit like a million balls in the court. And I love those kind of battles. You know, I really enjoyed that match. I mean, I probably enjoyed it because I won it, you know. Sure. I didn't really enjoy it when I lost those matches, but, you know.
Where was the venue for the 85 14 plays?
That was in Fort Lauderdale Tennis Club.
Oh, it was always held at Fort Lauderdale Tennis Club. Okay, so same thing for me. 9 years later. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And that was a great spot. I mean,
I loved it. What a great venue.
That's one of my favorite spots. I mean, that club itself has so much tennis tradition.
Yes.
You know, it's been around for years, you know, and a lot of people have gone through there. I think the Godfreys were there for a while.
Larry,
right?
Larry and Brian were there. Now, does it look the same? Is it pink, like the decor pink everywhere? And
yeah. They could, you know, do a little something with that, but yeah.
Still there. I tell you what, home of the most underrated grilled chicken sandwich I've ever had in my life was that grill that was near Stadium Court. I think I had like 12 or 13 sandwiches at the National Clays that year. I'll never forget that. It was so damn good. Anyways, all right. So, you know, I tried to look up some 16s information, but couldn't find anything. Did you skip your the 16s and move right into the 18s after your 14s career was over?
I played 1 year in the 16s.
You played 1 year in the 16s. Okay.
Yeah, I think I finished like 29 in the nation or something like that. But that was
you did, and you have a good memory, man.
29?
Yeah.
Really?
I think so. Wow. Yeah. I mean, I found the ranking of 29, and I was confused if that was.
Yeah, because I was 16 playing in the 18s.
You were 16 playing in the 18s. You finished 2 in Florida, and there was
a Courier.
There's a guy from Dade City named
Jim
Courier. So, obviously, did you guys meet, you and Courier, in any of the designated or state closed in 1987, if I have that year correct?
I don't remember. I don't. No, we did.
You did. Okay. No, tell me about the Jim Courier match.
No, well, you know, the reason why I don't remember is because he kicked my ass every time.
Was he that good? I mean, was he that good?
He was that good. I mean, he really. You know, I can remember. I mean, it was like 2-2, 2-1. I don't know. I mean, for me, anything like that, they're all the same. You know.
Right.
And the thing was that at that time, Jim was so much stronger than me. You know, I mean, I could usually out-hit a lot of people, But when I went in against Jim, I really like hitting the ball, and the guy, it was crazy. I mean, you'd hit it, and then it'd come back harder.
Yeah.
And not only that, you can never get that guy out of position. It was like, if you played a couple balls here and a couple balls there, you knock some guys out of position. Jim was always on the ball. It was unbelievable. Not only did he hit the ball really, really, really hard, he was a great athlete on top of that.
Yeah.
And he had good ball anticipation. And I remember at the finals of one of those designated, I don't know where it was. I think it was Orlando or something like that. But George would tell me, like, hey, man, just hit everything to his backhand. His backhand's not that good. And I hit everything to his backhand, and he whipped my ass. I mean, it was,
Nothing you can do. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the one shot that if I could have used against him was slice, because Courier hit the ball so funky on the backhand that there was a little bit of a weakness there, but you have to get the ball down. And I never, at the time I was just hitting the ball as hard as I could, and I never really brought the ball down. So I played right into Jim's game, like I think that's why they were trying to get me into the net. So when I played guys like that, but again, I was eventually going to get stronger, and I think I could have, compensated that. But at that time in that year, he was just a lot stronger than me. And I don't feel so bad because in the 16 and under nationals, in the finals, he beat Stolenberg, one of the Australian guys, in what I think it was one of the greatest matches I've ever seen, in my life. Everybody was there. Everybody was, I can remember Jared Palmer, a bunch of guys. We were all sitting there watching these guys play, and you could just tell there was just another level of tennis. I think Jim won that match in 3 sets or something like that, but, very rarely did you ever see everybody sitting down, enjoying a match like when we watched Jim beat Stolenberg in the finals, and that was when the Australians could come in and play the nationals.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Is that Kalamazoo?
No, it was the clay courts. That's when I had that match against Chang that my hand started cramping up. That's another guy that
Talk about that match.
Yeah, exactly. Like that. That's another guy that could get to every single ball you could possibly throw at him. It was just. And not only that, the guy had some pace on the ball too. It wasn't like he was just hitting it back. Like he had this one little backhand angle that he would do to you all the time that you're like, come on, man, stop doing that. You know what I mean?
Where did you play Michael Chang?
At the same clay courts, at those clay courts. Yeah, okay. Because he was also playing up. There was a lot of guys playing up that year. I think when I went to Kalamazoo that year, that could possibly have been the hardest Kalamazoo that's ever been, because I remember David Wheaton was there, Malachi Washington was there, Jonathan Stark, Jared Palmer, Francisco Montana, Chuck Adams. It was just there was a really there's a very big list of Chang. I think Chang won it that year.
I think he did. Yeah.
I think that's a year that Chang
did win it 1 year. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was that year. And that was a really tough field. There was a lot of good players out there that made the top 100 of that.
Your era was unbelievable. I mean, we look at these eras, now that I started this page, nearly 2 years ago, and I look at the guys that were born in 70 to 72. I feel like you guys had it the toughest, and not only in the sectional dynamic, but also on the national level too, because all the guys that you've mentioned, born in 70 to 72, they were our American heroes in the 80s and the 90s, I should say.
Mark Knowles was also in there too.
Mark Knowles, yeah, that's another big name.
That's what I mean. Like if you start really thinking about it, there are there are a lot of good guys. Steve Bryant, I think, was also like top 100, but there were a lot of guys. And I look back at that era, and I was just lucky to be able to compete in that time period. But the thing is that I think we just all made each other tougher.
Yeah.
I think that competition breeds competition. And all those guys, every single name that I mentioned, nobody went, Todd Martin is another guy.
Northwestern, yeah.
Yeah, Todd Martin's another guy that was there.
Yeah.
So
not a bad name.
Yeah, nobody wanted to lose. Everybody wanted to win. So I think that's important. When you have that level of competition, it sort of breeds one of the best generations that has come out of the USDA.
One of my goals and initiatives when this Facebook page started to resonate was to preserve the history of all the great Florida moments and all the stuff you just talked about. Now, how often, Jose, and it's kind of sad, you're probably going to say, especially kids, they just don't know this history at all. But do people approach you, let's say at Beltree or anywhere else, and say, Jose, I remember the name Jose Ayala. I remember you played with X and Y and Z. How often does that happen?
Well, let me put it to you this way. I have students, and and one day some of those they turned around and go, they asked me if I had played.
No,
They're
I
like,
never
hey,
played.
yeah. It was, I mean, they're little, but still, and
Yeah.
I'm like, they're like 8, 9 years old, but I thought it was funny. I'm like, yeah, but that's pretty much how it goes.
Yeah.
I think that you are doing an important, work, because I feel that it's important to sort of keep the history. Like, one of the things that when I talked to Gloria, Gloria was telling me, is like, oh, I'm going to throw away all these pictures because, I just don't want to look at them anymore. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm like, that's, I'm like, don't, I'm like, I'll take those pictures. I'm like, she's like, oh, I'll give them to you. I'm going to go see her with Arthur and Vasilevsky pretty soon.
Oh, wow.
And, and I'm like, that's tennis history. I mean, that's, if you love the game, you appreciate the history.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just consider myself lucky to be a little bit part of the history. And, it really is what it means to you, and like I told Jeffrey Mager the other day, I think we had a discussion on your page, and I'm like, it's really about, like, would you do it all over again? And I'm talking about, would you do it all over again? I got to 368 in the ATP. Never, I had some family things that I had to take care of, so I stopped playing the tour. But one of the things is like, not having made it, I would still do it all over again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because in my book, I had fun.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. So it's really not about, you take away all the trophies, you take away everything, but it's about the day in and day out of just enjoying yourself playing tennis and having competition.
That's right.
Because I really think that this is what the game is about. It's about, going out there and grinding it and just enjoying it and learning all those life lessons of being able to do something the best that you can and love what you do, man. Love what you do, because one of the reasons why I became a coach was I always saw George having so much fun at it. I never really thought it through. I mean, had I thought it through, I might have not done it. It's like, I don't regret it, but it's like I never thought about, like, how much money I was going to make or what it was going to look like, or what my life was going to look like. But I can tell you this, I really love my job. I mean, it's every day I wake up, I'm on a tennis court.
Yeah.
It's like I tell all my kids, I'm like, hey, that sometimes they complain, and I'm like, listen, man, let me tell you something. You're on a tennis court, you have nothing to worry about, all right? I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Well, I need to get down to Frank Beltree, and I would love to take a private lesson with you. You have inspired me, man. You are a very positive guy, man. I love it. All right. Now I want to go back in time, and let's go to the Easter Bowl. Give us the year for the Easter Bowl champion. I have 89. Do I have that right?
Well, I won it in 85 and 89.
82-time Easter Bowl champion. Were both times at Doral? Do I have that right?
Yeah,
okay,
that's correct. Yes.
All right. So we beat a Florida guy in the finals from West Palm Beach, Florida. Chris Cotos. Do I have that right? In the 89 championship?
89, yeah.
Okay, who'd you
right.
beat in 85 in the 14s?
Palmer.
Oh, you beat Palmer then.
Yeah.
All right. So 89 Easter Bowl championship. A lot of big names, I'm sure, in that draw. Take us back to that event in Miami. That's 20 years ago. No, wait, 30 years ago. 30 years ago. I was 9 years old.
Yeah, I'm like, man.
Hey, I was training with you at Wellaby, except about 10 courts down. So
yeah. Like,
go ahead.
You're talking about you want to talk about the 85 one?
I want to talk about 89.
89.
Yeah.
Well, that was, I just remembered. I thought I had like, a relatively easy time winning that tournament, but I had forgotten that I was down match point to Scott Davidoff.
Boca Raton guy. There you go. Wow.
Scott Davidoff had me match point in the quarterfinals, man.
Wow. Okay.
You know, and it's funny because I just ran into Scott at the Miami Open, you know.
Okay. Yeah.
And he's a great guy, man. I mean, you
He
know,
is.
we used to call him Papa Smurf. He was.
Yeah.
He,
I remember he recruited me when he was the Colorado head coach. He's a good guy.
oh no, he's a great guy,
Yeah,
man.
I believe
you know,
Davidoff is a Terravella then Spanish River graduate. He started off at
right.
Terravella, yeah, and
Yeah.
he was an amazing player. And you played him in what round in the Easter Bowl?
In the quarterfinals.
Quarterfinals, okay. So you played a Floridian in the quarters and in the finals. Who'd you play in the semifinals?
I think it was Carlos Bustos.
I don't know him. No.
Yeah, he was seated number 1, I think.
What were you seated?
Carlos Bustos is a California guy.
Okay.
You
And
know,
what they seed you?
I can't remember. Maybe 4, you know, maybe 5. I can't, you know.
Yeah.
But I remember, yeah, because Carlos was seated 1. I might even been 2. Okay. You know, because there were 3 guys that were, you know, Chuck Adams. I don't know if that name rings a bell.
Yeah,
he was pretty good.
The name rings a bell. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a, you know, California guy, but I had to play Davidoff in the quarters. And you know what the thing is about Scott Davidoff, I don't know if you ever played him against him or.
No, I mean, he's my favorite.
There was never a guy that had better court anticipation than that guy.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think that guy, before you hit the ball, he was already setting up, you know, because I remember thinking, like, how can I get a ball past this guy? He's so slow. Because I used to run sprints with the guy.
Yeah.
Like I said, and it's interesting how, as a coach, all of a sudden you start like getting these flashes of, oh, this is why this guy used to be so good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like you can look at a perspective, like at the game, completely different. You know, it's like you can dissect it a little bit more. And I realized that Scott Davidoff, nobody had better anticipation than that guy. Because I remember running sprints against the guy. I'm like, dude, this guy's like a turtle, man. I mean, you know. But then again, here he is in the Easter Bowl, you know, about to beat me. You know.
Scott Davidoff, a Gary Kessel disciple. I remember. I think he went to Inverray, didn't he?
But he also was at with us at Plantation.
He was at
Wellaby.
Wellaby.
He was also at Wellaby for a while. You know, he was there.
You know, I'll go into St. Thomas as well. You and Mark Merklin had an amazing career there together. You know, St. Thomas, obviously one of the most legendary high school tennis programs in the late 80s to mid 90s. You guys took high school tennis pretty serious at St. Thomas. You guys wanted to win championships, and everybody played. Like Gibbons had a ridiculous team. You had Barron, I think, at Plantation. The Terravella guys were going strong. What? Give us some high school tennis memories at St. Thomas as well.
No, St. Thomas was great. You know, like, but I mean, really, that whole team was made up of Wellaby. Yeah. You know, you had a Mexican guy that had come train with George Lauren Provost, you know, at number 5. You had Oliver Fernandez, I think, was number 3. Mark Merklin was number 2. You know, so the whole team was pretty stacked. I mean, we had a really
pretty damn good. Yeah.
You know, we had a really good team. So yeah. So it was also fun playing. You know, that's one of the things. If anything could come back to the way things were, I would love to see like high school tennis, you know, make a comeback.
Yeah.
Because now it's like, you know, they play a set. It's not even a full set. You know, it's like, you know, they play an 8-game pro set for singles, and none of the schools have any players.
Yeah, nobody plays. Nobody plays.
No. Well, I think homeschooling has gotten, you know, a lot to blame for that, because everybody's homeschooling now. You know, it's like they say if you want to be a tennis player, you have to homeschool. I mean, I'm not necessarily. I don't believe that. You know, I really don't believe that. You know, it's interesting how even the McEnroe brothers have, you know, two mindsets. You know, John seems to believe that you can stay in like New York and go to school and make it, and Patrick is the other way around. He thinks that, you know, everybody should go the homeschool route. I mean, I'm with John. I'm more of, you know, only certain kids should be homeschooling in my book. You know, I don't have a lot of clients, because when I get calls from Mexico about, you know, somebody getting homeschooled, I don't do it. I just don't do it. I say, you know, your kid's 80 in Mexico. He's 14 years old. I mean, he should stay in school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're not, you know, top 5 in the ITF, you're 15 years old and you got tons of money, then you shouldn't do it. because I just want to make sure, the kid can go to school.
Right.
These people that sacrifice so much so their kid can play, there are no guarantees in tennis. And they don't understand the pressure that they put for that kid. And I think that's what destroyed, high school tennis
Good
back in our day.
observation. Yeah,
You
that's
know,
really good analysis. I never would think about that. Well, it makes total sense.
right.
Homeschool destroying the dynamic of high school tennis.
No, it
Yeah,
did.
it's an arms race to see who's
And,
play the
and,
most.
and, and that's what I'm saying. Like back in our day, Merklin went to school.
Yeah,
Oliver was in school. We were all in school. We just come out and then we'd grind it in the afternoon. And really, I think that it's not how long you practice, it's how hard you practice.
yeah,
And that's the thing because I see kids that are homeschool, out there, and they're not doing anything. And I always have this question, like, what can you do with a 12-year-old? I mean, how hard can you really train a 12-year-old?
yeah,
You see what I mean?
yeah.
And it's something that I've trained hard. Like nobody can tell me like, and that's the one thing I enjoy about being a player now, coach, is that nobody can tell me like, oh, this is working hard. Like, no, I know what working hard is. I mean,
Right.
George and Carlos both taught me that. I mean, I remember when you're older, you can play as much as you want. You're not going to get hurt because if your technique is good by then you're not going to have a problem. I remember at Palmer, like one of the facilities that you put up the other day.
Sure.
I used to train there with Carlos, and I liked it. It's just I like him very a little more. But I remember one Saturday I had played 7 sets, and I was packing my stuff up. I'm ready to go home. And I remember Carlos coming up to me and saying, like, well, where are you going? I'm like, what do you mean, where am I going? I'm like, I'm going home. He's like, no, man, you got 3 more sets with Isham Satini. I'm like, what?
Oh man, those are the days. That
and,
doesn't happen anymore. That doesn't happen
and then I went on and played 3 sets with Isham. You know what I mean? And but it's funny. That's what I'm saying. But that's toughness. But then you can take it. I was 18 years old. You can take that kind of grind. Not when you're 12 years old. And like I said, in high school tennis, it's great, man. I had great memories from winning the state championship. With the team, and it's the only thing in tennis that kind of gives you a feel of what college tennis would
That's
be
right.
like.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So I do have like, I mean, in hindsight, I stopped playing the tour because of family problems. So I might have had to quit school and go back to Mexico and help my mother out like I did, but whatever. But besides that, that's where I got a little taste of what it's like to be in a team. And I think that's great. I mean, I'm all for college tennis.
Yeah.
I think 95% of the kids should grind it out through college.
Yeah.
Most of these kids that are homeschooling, they get to college and they feel like failure.
That's right.
You don't make the tour. You're. It's not true. I mean, look at how long guys are playing now. I mean, look at Roger. He's amazing, man. The guy's 37 years old because in reality, it's how you take care of your body. If you have good technique, and how much are you still motivated? You're still motivated to play. You're still motivated to get out there and hit up balls, and have fun. That's what it's all about. If you're motivated, you can do it. Roger has proved it for as long as you want to do it. Look at Connors. Connors played till he was 44 years old. That's
Unreal.
ridiculous.
It's unreal. Yeah. You're proving tonight that age is just a number. I see Diego Ayala enters the room, and he works with Mark Marklin at Woodfield. Diego is the first person I ever met in tennis. He's a year older than me. And we were at Inverary, then we went to Welby together. So here's my question for you. I don't know if you had a chance to watch or even care to look at some of the younger guys at Welby, 5, 4. You mentioned Ijam Zantini, another guy I remember at Welby. Was there someone that was younger than you at Welby that you said, that guy has it, that guy can make it, or that guy's going to be maybe a college superstar? Name some guys that are a little bit younger than you that I think the crowd will remember.
You know what it was is that it was pretty much, to me, it was almost like whoever George took under his wing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I mean, George was like the predecessor. He would always say like so and so is pretty good and this guy's pretty good, and and I think I like the guys that grinded it on the court.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like guys that went out there and just played. They just played. It didn't matter who it was or what it was. They just went out there and played a lot of sets, like, Diego and all those guys. That's how they were, man. That's how that next generation came up also. I think that, that's why it's important not to lose the information, because it kind of builds on top of each other. You sort of remember. Like right now, what I feel is happening in junior tennis, it's like a watered down version. It's like people aren't, fighting the hardest all the way through. It's not like back in the day, like in the 90s and the 80s, where we're like, hey man, you'd rather die than lose a match.
Right.
And if you lost, it was okay, but you gave it all you had. So that's the important thing. And I always admired all those guys that I watched play at Wallaby that would just grind it.
Okay.
That would just be out there and just, they earned my respect. They'd be like, hey man, this guy is working hard, regardless of whether they were the best or not the best.
Okay.
Because nobody can tell you like who's going to be good and who's not going to be good. Anybody that can say, like, obviously if you see a guy winning all the tournaments and just head and shoulders above everybody, that's easy to see.
Right.
But like I could see PM. I did the Orange Bowl one year, the announcing,
Yep.
And I saw PM play, and I told my son, I go, this guy's gonna kill it, because you could just tell. I mean, you could just tell the way that ball, when he hit that ball, the way it moved. I mean, the good thing about Beltree Tennis Center is that we have a lot of tennis players come through. Everybody's come through there. Because of the Orange Bowl and because of certain tournaments, futures.
Yep.
I was lucky enough to see Dimitrov play. When he was trying to, on the futures tour, and you could just tell these guys just hit the ball just a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Their technique is that much cleaner. So it's really also, are you lucky enough to get good coaching? If you're lucky enough to get somebody that can clean your strokes up, and you work hard enough, and you just have the right upbringing, a lot of guys can make it. So it's just about extending that opportunity to a lot of people. I see a lot of people with shoddy technique that they can work all they want, but it's just not going to happen because they need to clean up their strokes.
Sure.
All
right, let's go back now, Jose. We've zigzagged a lot, which is fine. We're gonna go back to the 18s.
Right.
It's over. Let's go to Kalamazoo, the last year of 18s, 1989. Did you play that?
No. See, I won the Easter Bowl.
Okay.
And then I went to Martinique to play a $50,000 challenger.
Okay.
And I qualified for that.
Okay.
I beat Kelly Jones in the last round of qualifying, and I also, before that, I played the Miami Open. I don't know if I lost on the last round to Byron Talbot or the second last round, but I did pretty well. I beat this guy Rudolph Gilbert, who was pretty good. So then after I got my first 2 points, I was so excited about it, and I sort of mentioned to Carlos, hey, I want to play on the tour, and he just said, go right ahead. You know what I mean? And there was no, hindsight. Should I play Kalamazoo? Maybe. You know what I mean? I mean, yeah. That's a tournament that, it has a lot of history, and of course I would have liked an opportunity to win that tournament.
Sure.
And and had I do it all over again, yeah, I would have maybe I should have played it, but then, it was okay. What I did is play on the tour a little bit, and I did pretty well. I mean, I was 368, and I felt like I had the game to keep it going. And then, that family thing happened, and then that's it. But in the end, I think it was a good thing because it kept me in tennis.
Sure.
That not quite making it. Somebody told me that one of my lessons when I was head pro in Cancun at the Western Regina, was giving a lesson to this guy, and he goes, I don't know, we got into our story, and I told him, and he goes, oh, so you must be a decent coach. And I'm like, why? He's like, because, all the good coaches have this thing where, maybe they could have made it or not, and they didn't quite make it. And then I started thinking about it, and I'm like, you might be right. You might be right. You might be right that because of lack of, going through all the way, now I'm involved in the game. And I love it that much more because
right.
I never really got a personal taste of it.
Sure.
I got a little taste of it. I played the Miami Open when I was 15. I beat Bruce Lipka, this guy, and
Bruce Lipka, yeah, no, Bruce.
And then I lost to Wheaton,
okay.
David Wheaton. So I got a little taste of it, and then playing in challengers here and there, but never the full taste, you know, never the tour experience of the grind in the tour. And who knows if I would have been, you know, tired of it and said, you know, I'm done with tennis. It's sort of the way it worked out. It's the other way around. I love this game, and I realize how much it's done for me. You know, how much the discipline has sort of kept me going and made me get involved and, you know, stay in and out and keep doing it, and I'm happy. You know, I'm in a good spot. You know, I played when I was younger, and now I still, you know, I'm still out there trying to do it. You know.
By the way, on this page, we can't call it the Miami Open.
Oh,
We
Why?
have to call it the Lipton.
Oh, that's right. That's
Always
right.
on this page is always the Lipton.
That's the original. Well, that's when I played it.
Played Lipton. Yeah, you did. Key
Yeah.
Biscayne, right?
No, I
Oh,
played
Boca.
it. You know where I played it?
In Delray, in Labors.
Boca.
Boca West. You played at Boca West.
Boca West.
Yeah.
When it was at Boca West.
That's a long time ago. Wow. Yeah. What? Boca
Yeah.
West, then Labors, then Key
Yeah.
Biscayne. Yeah.
You know, and I in Delray, when it was in Delray, I remember watching Jay play.
Jay Berger. Yeah.
Like, yeah, and I mentioned Jay. I don't know. He had a great match against Yannick Noah one night.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Brian Meisner says Bruce Lipka, total animal. Bruce Lipka, I believe, is in Bethesda, Maryland, as a director somewhere, if I have that right.
Yes, I think. Yeah, I'm friends with him on Facebook.
Good
but
guy.
He's a good guy. Yeah, for sure.
All right, so your pro career lasts about 4 years. Do I have that timeline right?
Well, yeah, you know, I can't quite remember it. Although I only played 1 year fully. You know what I mean? Like, I only played like the year I got to 368. That's the only year I played full time.
Okay.
Because I was going in and out of you know, those family issues. We had some people invade our lands, whatever. My father not being, you know, here, it was up to me. I'm the oldest brother, so
yeah.
So you know, I couldn't. You know, I couldn't sit by and watch my mother go through that by herself.
Sure.
So the whole thing is like, you know, after it was all over and done, she said, you know, you can go on the tour now again. And I think it was 1 year after my best rank, like, you know, I had not played for a year. And I didn't want to do it because I didn't want to be a fill-in in any draw. You know, I always wanted to sort of kind of win the tournaments. And, you know, there was a stigma when we were younger that if you didn't make it by the time you're 18, 19, that it was, at least in my generation, like it was over. Like, you know, there was no chance, second chance. And that kind of stuck with me, and I didn't want to play. I mean, like, what I know now, I should have just gone back.
Yeah.
Because I was offered a contract to, you know, in Switzerland. I know they gave me some good money to go play, and I didn't want to play. I studied economics for a little bit, and then I realized that, you know, I had to get back on the courts.
Where did you study?
In Guadalajara.
Okay, so you took some college courses down there, and not in the state.
Yeah. Like I played a lot of men's opens there, more for fun than anything.
Yeah.
You know, and I had a really good time playing with this guy, Agustin Moreno. He's the head coach at Loyola in California.
Sure.
The women's coach. Yeah, but he's a really good guy. He was a really good player. So I really enjoyed my time there playing men, you know, just money tournaments, because we used to train every day.
Yeah.
You know, used to go to the club, go to the sauna and stuff, and just really enjoyed each other and just played against each other every single day. I don't know, we must have played about 3,000 sets.
That's beautiful.
You know, no, it was great. It was like really, like I said, you know, that's what kept me going, and I just really enjoyed playing. And that's why, you know, I wouldn't mind playing your event, but I got to train, man. If you have that Legends thing, you know, I hate losing.
Yeah.
And then you know what? And then you got all these guys like Diego that are good, man, and they're younger, and you know, it's gonna make me. I don't know if I have enough time to train to beat those guys. You know.
He's not that good. I carried him in a doubles match last month in Orlando. Don't think he's good. All right, so let's go back to your first job in the States. you come back and it was Inverary, Macy, Alvarado. Do I have that right? When you came?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I was there for 6 months.
6 months. Okay. Then you go to Mexico, and
Right.
there was probably resort tennis available for you. Do I have that right to be pro coaches at or pros?
Well, I started working. I opened up an academy in
Yeah.
this Club Italia.
Okay.
A friend of mine had a club with like 7 courts, and we opened up an academy in Mexico City. So I was there for about a year,
Okay.
and I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, but Mexico City, it's a very hectic city, man.
Sure.
It's
Yeah.
a lot of traffic, and I'm more of kind of a beach kind of guy. So then I looked for an opportunity, and I moved to Cancun.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah. Resort area. Yeah. There's
you
beaches
know.
there.
Well, I was a head pro at the Sheraton and the Westin Regina.
Oh wow. Okay.
So,
Nice.
so I was there. I had an academy there, and a partner of mine was there, Mariano Recalde. He used to work for George Paris. They're three brothers that are from Argentina. He was good friends with George. He was good friends with George also,
Okay.
and Pierre Mariano was, and I was there for a while, but then I missed the action. Florida, here is where the action is. It's like. Here is where all the tennis is at. I mean, I really enjoyed my time in Cancun, but I had to come back to Florida because I wanted to compete against, all the good coaches here. It's like this is where tennis is at. If you have good players here, you got something.
All right. So give me a timeline when you leave Mexico and come back to South Florida.
Well, I think I might have. I've been at Beltry now, I think, for like 13, 14 years.
Okay. So when you came back from Mexico, your landing spot was Veltri, and you were not anywhere else prior or since?
Well, no, I did some time with Pierre.
Okay.
I was with Pierre
Pembroke
for about
Lakes?
like Pembroke Lakes for about 3 to 4 months.
Okay, but that's
Yeah.
small. That's a very small stint there.
Yeah, no. Right, right,
Yep.
right. No, since I've come back, I've really done almost all my time at Beltry.
Okay.
And
Yeah, go ahead. Go
go
ahead. What
ahead.
you say?
No, go ahead, go ahead.
All right.
No,
So
I'm very happy there. Yeah.
the Veltri dynamic is interesting to me because what you have, and you're gonna elaborate much better than I am because you know it much better than I do. You have the city that runs their own in-house programming. You have Saviano out there probably leasing courts for his high performance academy. There's you, and you'll go into that in a second. Is there anything else going on? Because or is it just those three bodies governing that facility? Do I have that right?
Right. Yeah. Well, there's, Beltry has probably like 5 or 6 pros
Right.
that work for Beltry, like under city programming.
That's
And
not
there's
you.
really,
You don't do
no.
Right.
No. I mean, I work with the city, but I have my own thing.
Right.
What I do is a lot of player development. Like, I really enjoy working with the little kids.
Okay.
Anywhere from 5 to 18.
Sure.
So I have a lot of after school programming and
Okay.
stuff like that.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's just put a hypothetical situation here. I'm a 32-year-old guy, and I reach out for tennis lessons at Frank Veltri. Are they typically funneled to the city pros, or do they go to you? How does the dynamic work? It's a little confusing, I'm sure, for the non-mainstream tennis player to decipher where they go for lessons or clinics. Tell us how that works.
Well, if you call the pro shop, you go with one of the pros from the club.
Okay.
I have a lot of my business from people that I've been there for 12 years.
So they know how to contact you.
Yeah, like pretty much everybody contacts me. I don't get any lessons from the pro shop because everybody knows I'm there. So, all my business is really from people that they already know I'm there. I've been there for years, so they contact me. It's an uncle of a friend or somebody that's coming back, or when you're at a place long enough, people know you're there. So that's sort of what I have at Beltry.
Are you on your own? And talk about, what's the name of your company again? What's the name of the tennis company?
Cosmic Tennis.
Cosmic Tennis. Okay. Is there anyone with you there, or is it all you?
I have 3 pros under me.
You do? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And is the dynamic, what separates your dynamic from what Veltry's pros have to offer? What's the major difference between Cosmic Tennis and the in-house staff through Plantation?
Well, I think I've developed my own system.
Okay.
Through all the years that I've been coaching, I really do all the progressions from the beginning to the end.
Right.
And I think I'm more of a technical guy. Like I always said that if I can't fix somebody's stroke, forehand, backhand, or whatever, I'll quit. And so far, it hasn't happened to me. I've had a pretty good run at that. I've been doing it for, I don't know, 25 years or something, 30.
Okay.
I don't even know anymore. Since I was 25. So I've been very lucky to be able to, technically help anybody out.
Okay.
And it's sort of like, you get the whole experience with me. It's something, the recreational player goes to Beltry, the person that wants to get, a little more high performance or just wants to, it's really competitive. I take all the competitive guys that would show up. If you're not going to Saviano, then you're coming to me. That's more like it. And I'm more of what George used to be like. George was more affordable. He helped out a lot of people. And I'm more of that.
Okay.
I've sort of decided, for a little while, about a year ago, I got really frustrated with the whole industry, because what ends up happening is if you don't charge a lot, they don't think you're that good.
That's right.
And if you don't do a lot of hype, then you're not that good. So, and I don't do either or. I don't do a lot of hype, and I don't charge a lot. So it's like all of a sudden, the industry, like everybody's out to get players. So they get talk to my players, and after 4 or 5 years with them, they leave, and then that's it. And then you spend 4 or 5 years developing a player, and then the worst part of it is, it's like not necessarily do they always fare off better. You see what I mean?
Yep.
So
Yep.
I was like, no, that's it. I'm going to charge a lot. I'm done. But then when I started thinking about it, of why am I doing this? Why am I in this business? It's like to really sort of make the average person, the average collar, blue collar person, if their kid wants to be, a good tennis player, they have somewhere to go.
That's right.
You know what I mean? They have somewhere where a guy can give them, world-class instruction for a reasonable price.
Sure.
You see what I mean?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
I go in, and that was George. I started realizing that that's the route that I want to go, because that's just the way it is. Because I helped out my family with what I did back then, I don't have to worry about retiring, because being a tennis pro, to me, it's almost like being a teacher. It's like we don't make a lot of money. It is a lot of hours on the court. So it's kind of like either you develop a system where you're charging a lot and you have this or that, or you do it more kind of like for the love of the game. And yes, you want to make a living, but it has to be fair for everybody, and I want to be able to give kids that have the opportunity to become great tennis players, even if their dads don't, they don't own IBM or whatever. You know what I mean?
That's fascinating. Now, Jose, are you traveling with kids? Do you find yourself going to tournaments a lot? Are you doing that thing that a lot of the coaches did for us in the past? How often are you on the road?
Oh, well, right now I have a lot of kids, from the ages 8 to 9 and 13, 14, 15. But they're not really that competitive. Right. But I'm doing a lot of traveling with my son.
Okay.
I've been like really fortunate that my son loves the game, and I've been going to the weekends with him to a lot of tournaments. Like we have a level 5 in Naples next weekend.
Okay.
So and it's just because I'm a tennis coach that I brought him up a little bit different. It was. He's a late bloomer, so I didn't really put him through the grind when he was younger.
Right.
I sort of believe that if you do things the right way, when you should do the grind, it's like more about now, 16, 17, 18, 19, because now he's a late bloomer, so he's ready for it. So now that he's ready for it, now we're charging all the tennis. I never really worried about ranking. To me, it's more about how he plays.
Yeah.
Is he hitting the right shots? Is he big? Is he strong? Is he moving the right way? You know what I mean? Is he hitting so having developed him in the way I have, it's like, I think we're just getting started. Like we have a deal where he's going to go through school, and he's going to start playing the tour, when he's 22, and we're going to go all the way till he's 26 years old. So it's a long road,
How
man.
old is he?
And he's 16 now.
Where does he go to school?
He's St. Thomas.
St. Thomas. There you go. STA.
Yeah, yeah.
Very nice.
But he doesn't play for the tennis team.
Okay. There you go. All right. So you're probably the perfect guy to ask this. What is your thought, and what were your thoughts when the USTA developed all the different balls? Are you pro, neutral, against the red, the orange? The green?
No, I love it, man.
You love it. Okay, go ahead.
I'm a huge. I think I've been doing that. I've been doing that system for about 10 years now.
Okay, and that's what I think it started around got really huge in 07, 08. So you've been doing it probably since then.
In 2002, I went to Bangkok with the Mexican Tennis Federation.
Okay.
It was just two of us that went to the ITF World Coaches Workshop. And I remember watching a video of these two little French kids play. They were 8 years old, and I have never seen such clean strokes and volleys, and they were coming into the net, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is amazing. So ever since then, it's interesting because my son's like a perfect example. He started playing when he was 5 years old with the red ball. Then he went to the orange ball. He actually got to the finals of the Bobby Curtis 10 and under with the orange ball. He had some great matches. Then I moved him up to the green dot. Then I finally moved him up to he didn't touch a regular ball until he was 12 years old. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So he's really gone through the whole gamut. And the advantage is like when they played with the orange ball, you hit the ball twice as much.
Right.
You literally, rally much, much more with those kind of balls than the regular balls.
Okay.
And I feel like, if you look at his technique is it's pretty good. So it's all really thanks to the system. And I feel it's almost like you're taking a shortcut. You don't need as much time on the court when you're hitting more tennis ball.
Right.
You see what I mean? So in that system has really helped. He used to compete a lot with, Daniel Blackman, Martin's son.
Okay.
He's also, he's my son's age, and, and they both have gone through this system. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen, 5 years from now, 4 years from now. See how these kids that are played with, a different ball have developed. I'm all for it. I don't, if I know a lot of pros don't like it, and I respect their opinion.
Sure.
To me, I have lost business because I refuse to, give a kid that's 7 years old, dad's like, oh, he's got to play with a regular ball. I'm like, no, sorry. He's like, well, if you keep on, I'm like, then I can't help you. It's like, think about this. How many kids are that are 7 years old are playing on a regular hoop with a regular ball? How many kids that are 8 years, how many kids that are 8 years old are holding a regular bat? How many of those kids are kicking a big soccer ball? It's like every other sport has evolved and we haven't. We've sort of stayed the same. It's like, why does it have to be like that? When I can get a kid rallying in 4, 5, 6, 7 sessions, why should I use the other system that's going to take me forever? Of course, if you get the kid that's, unbelievable ball striker, he's going to go out there and just kill it, but he's going to kill it anyway.
Sure.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's not, but I believe he'd even be a little bit better if you used, that other system. What's happening though is we need more competition. Like my son was lucky enough, but there was a couple guys that were pretty good that were following that system. So he had the competition. But because so many people are complaining and some people don't like it, and so the best kids are not competing in that system. And I think that's not right. I mean, I think that, everybody should be competing in that. So then the level goes up higher. I mean, I saw some matches between my son and Daniel Blackman that I thought I was watching two college kids. And this is like the 10 and unders that were both 9 years old.
Yeah.
So I've seen what the system can do and how good it is. So I think, my son has not had an injury, since, 0 injuries. And that's the difference. When he was playing with because of the tough strings, I string his racket at 34. but he plays with like, yeah, but with a polyester.
Yeah,
But so that's really like 39.
sure.
So there's all these little things that you learn, that you start applying, that when you see how good they are for the kids, you're like, so for me, myself, I'm a huge proponent of that system,
Well, you've given us a good reason to support that, or at least if you don't support that, an opportunity to now shed some light and possibly change your opinion. You may have changed my opinion on that. You did a pretty persuasive job. Brian Meisner said Jose Ayala's tennis IQ is off the charts. Listen, I've done about 40 of these shows, Jose. I don't think I've talked to anyone with a higher IQ in tennis. I would agree with Brian. It's unbelievable.
Oh, Mama, that's a compliment, man.
Oh, it's
Thanks.
incredible. All right, let's talk about your game right now at age 48. Are you playing? If so,
I'm still pretty good, man.
you're still good. All right. Who are you playing with? Are you playing with kids, or are you playing with anyone around your age that we would know?
Like I used to hit a lot with Andy Lake
Okay.
sometimes.
Yeah.
When we're not busy, I really like playing with Andy. He's a great competitor. He's a great guy. He's a little crazy, but he's cool. You know what I
Sure.
mean?
Yeah.
I enjoy, and that's the thing. I enjoy playing with guys like that, guys that push you. And me and Andy played some sets here and there, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I mean, I hit with my son sometimes, and sometimes I play doubles against him. And with him. But just recently I did Jeff Mager's event,
Yeah.
and I love that event because one is for a great cause.
Sure.
Two, Jeff's a great guy, or I don't know how to switch that around, but it's all the same.
Yeah.
And the other thing is like you start to see all these guys, you play a little bit against them, and then I got this guy Scott, he's a pretty good tennis player down here, like his number, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna call you. I get excited, but the problem is like when you're on the court and you're working so much, sometimes you just don't find the time. You know what I mean? Like you just are like, but do I miss it? Yeah. I mean, I love playing, man. If somebody would sponsor me with $5 million, I'd stop coaching and I'd go back on the senior tour, man.
There you go. All right, Jose. Before I cut you loose, what would you like to say about anything tennis related, anything to the crowd? I think you've provided us an amazing background of your past, your present, the historic situation at Frank Veltri. I can't believe how many years you've been there. That is amazing. So your final words. It's up. Go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, you know what? I think this page is great. I really I like the crowd. I've met some guys that were younger than me, through this page, and I feel like we all share one thing in common. That's love of the game. You know what I mean? And I think that's something. It's a community. For me, tennis is like a family. Like I consider everybody that went in my days in Wellaby, like part of my family. You know what I mean? And all the guys that I played against, everybody that I competed against, and it's just a lot of fun. And it's part of making tennis, social again. Bring back some of that, family ambient and just for the love of the game. So as long as we're talking about it and we're living it day in and day out, I like it. I enjoy it, and it's fun to sometimes the questions you post out there, and for a little while during your day to go back and remember, have some good memories. It's cool, man. So I just wish everybody the best, and that's it, man.
Well, I'm
We'll
glad
see
that
you guys around.
I'm glad
Yeah.
that you've been active on the page. Say hi to Ernie, because Ernie Fink will be pissed if you don't give him a shout out, please.
What's up, Ernie?
Yeah.
What's up, Ernie? Yeah, man. It's stop telling people that you beat me, man, because you never beat me, man.
I think what I love about this page is the history. I love, when I'm just have a crappy moment in the day, whether it's the wife, the kids, work. It's like, okay, I'm going to post something about Florida tennis, and boom, seeing the guys that were older than me, my generation, even some younger, it makes me feel good. It's a lot of fun. And to have a chance to talk with legends like you is even more fun. And I appreciate what you say about Wellaby. I was there for 2 years, and it's amazing how now at 39 years old, I can now think of it as a family and a fraternity. And it's just amazing how many people were there. And when you're 9, you don't care. You're just looking to figure out
Oh,
where to
right.
hit a ball. And now it's like, wow, I was part of a pretty miraculous academy and venue with all the great people.
You know what happens is exactly that. It's like you said, you know, I mean, it's not like I was conscious of this when I
Yeah.
left. Well, it's only as you get older and I guess mature, you know, that then you start realizing what it was, you know, and what it is and what it still could be. And because, you know, I was in Mexico City out one night when I was younger, 25, and I met a guy that was much younger than me. And it was like, you know, I don't know, later in the night. And the guy's like, hey, Jose, you know, I remember you from Wellaby. And right off the bat, I'll never forget that because I'm like, you know, I didn't even really recognize him, but I was like, I knew we had something in common because first of all, who's going to know that I was, well, you see what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then I gave him my number. I'm like, hey man, anything you need in Mexico City, you know, just give me a call.
Yeah.
So it has that sort of like I said, that family thing, you
Yeah.
know, that oh, you were at Wellaby too, so I guess George must have made you run too. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's that kind of thing of oh man, and then you can go back and there's something in common, and then you're like, okay, man, cool. That's you know that's what tennis does for you, man.
It is.
All right, man.
It
So
connects us.
yeah,
All right, Jose, my battery's dying, but it's perfect timing because I'm going to cut you loose. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sure the people that watched and will watch will appreciate it very much.
no problem, man. I really enjoyed it. Have a good one, man.
All right,
Good
there
night.
he is. Jose Ayala,
All
St.
right,
Thomas legend as well. Don't forget that, the Iguanas. Thanks,
all
buddy.
right, man. Have a good one.
All right, that is possibly the highest IQ, as Brian Meisner alluded to. And I was going to say that before he said that I've seen on this show. Explanations for everything were incredible. So he came and he delivered, Jose Ayala. So there are no scheduled guests, but there will be.